So I'm Cat Westwood and I'm a professional dancer and I'm also a yoga teacher. Um, I am also a shiatsu practitioner and choreographer.
And Kat, doing all those different kinds of body-oriented work, you're pretty sensitive to what we might call body-friendly language. And you were telling me about something that happened to you early in your dance training, where the teacher was maybe not using that kind of language.
Yes, mainly I came out of one particular class feeling quite awful physically, as well as feeling all cramped and painful. I felt this pressure like downwards. Yeah, it was like a heavy backpack, really horrible. And I also felt like an absolute failure.
And what kind of language was your teacher using?
It was things like straighten your leg, lengthen your spine. You should be able to do this. The teacher came round, grabbed a hold of my head and shoved it towards my knee in quite an aggressive manner and said, get your head to your knee. You should be able to do this because you're a professional. And that made me totally tense up and not do it at all.
So, Kat, what kind of language do you find really works when you're, say, teaching yoga or working with your dance colleagues?
Things like let the ankles be soft, let the feet spread on the ground, let the knees be soft rather than bend, rearrange the pelvis on top of the legs, let the spine be loose and that you can rearrange. I have an image for the spine that it's like a string of pearls and that the breath can move in between. So there's also movement in the spine.
And Kat, you've been teaching yoga to a group of men in their 50s, 60s, and older, not the most obvious demographic to be bending and stretching on yoga mats on the floor. How has that been going, and has the body-friendly language helped there?
Yes, that's at the Men's Shed in Norwich, which is an organisation across the UK, and it's usually for men who have like mental health issues, or they are bereaved, or they're quite lonely and they need a place to go. And there's also things there like woodwork, metalwork, model making, games, and things like that. A social place for them to not be isolated or get stuck with their own feelings. It's a place for them to go. But what they didn't have was a workshop, a movement workshop or an activity where they didn't make something. It's purely to work on themselves.
And so what worked? How did you persuade them to have a go?
So to meet them and to make them feel comfortable, mainly because I don't care that I am a young female teaching men yoga. The minute they met me, they did relax and they felt more comfortable. And the other thing was I also explained that I'm not interested in teaching them yoga where they do the splits, stand on their head, all sorts of manipulations in their body. It's more for them to explore movement for themselves.
And you did actually use some clean language to help them explore their experience?
Yes, after the experience with the hands-on in partners, we did a little feedback session and we talked in a group. They felt very comfortable to talk amongst themselves. And one guy said, what felt so different to the other week when we placed our hands in different parts of the spine. So I asked him, what was it about that? What was it that felt different? And he said, it made me feel that there was a void between the two hands, between my head and pelvis. So I asked him afterwards, but what was it about the void? And he said, the void felt like that his spine was a piece of thread. So then I asked him, well, what was it about this piece of thread that felt different to before? And he said that this experience of the void and his spine feeling like a piece of thread was, for him, made him feel that he could move his body with so much more ease because there was much more space between his head and pelvis.
And as well as using his words, it looks like you were also kind of using his gestures as you were asking the clean questions.
Yes, as well as asking the questions, I picked up on his body language and I guess mirrored or imitated the movements that he was doing. For example, the void, he did this movement here, and also thread of spine. So by using body language with him as well as the questions, it reassured him to feel quite comfortable.
Thanks very much, Kat. And is there one last thing you'd like to leave us with on this whole theme of body-friendly language?
Yes, one last thing is that I find language or clean questions or metaphors really have an effect on every single cell, every single muscle and movement within the body.
Thank you very much, Kat. Thank you very much for your time.